To you. Thank you for having me.
Now, we had two female suicide bombers detonating bombs and themselves yesterday. The female suicide bombers has been very rare in Nigeria. This is a new phenomenon, it seems like it. What does this latest development mean?
Well, it means that the Boko Haram is becoming confident and they're actually they've come of age. And they're continuing with their terrorist activities and they're becoming much more adventurous. As you can see, and again, another thing is this, that they've actually infiltrated, they've got a network where they've infiltrated the North Nigerian society, whereby they can actually get converts amongst female to become suicide bombers.
Is this a strange phenomenon, including women into the operations for Boko Haram, perhaps?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, to say that maybe I think as fighters or as marchers, as they call them, that's a new phenomenon. But for a start, I mean, the mere fact that Boko Haram can organize within society, it means that they've got support from all stratum of society. Yeah, they do have female supporters. You know, in fact, even in the criminal world, you find that with the criminals, the hardcore criminals, most of the people who hide their guns and who hide the loot, it's women. So basically, you cannot operate at that level without actually covering all stratum of society.
Now, yesterday, some Nigerian cities banned the use of vehicles for 3 days, claiming that it received intelligence warning of an attack. Does this mean, though, that Boko Haram is gaining the upper hand in Nigeria?
Well, Boko Haram has got the upper hand because the government has not been able to actually infiltrate Boko Haram. I mean to say that our young girls have been kidnapped and there's no sign of the government actually saying where they are or even making an attempt to release them. So it means that Boko Haram basically has got an upper hand and they've not been cracked, they've not been infiltrated by the government. So it means that they're a force to be reckoned with. Because
they've taken a couple of towns, they've still got the girls that they've kidnapped?
They can actually attack any town whenever they want in their choice and they just go away. And the government is unable to even capture, they capture but not many people. And they actually caught unawares.
Now, the Cameroon's vice prime minister's wife has been kidnapped by Boko Haram. Is this a game changer for Boko Haram in that part of the world?
No, it's not. I mean, this is the second time that people have been kidnapped in Cameroon by Boko Haram.
But this is the vice prime minister.
That's the vice prime minister, but it's just another person. I mean, you remember that last year there was a French family which was kidnapped by Boko Haram in Cameroon. Yeah, and they were held in Nigeria. Boko Haram, they operate on either side of the border. So basically, it's not a game changer. It's just a continuation. It just shows that they've got support from the two sides of the border.
And they operate both in Nigeria and Cameroon.
And also in Chad. In fact, Boko Haram, the most important thing that people should learn from what is happening now is this, that Boko Haram has adopted the standard tactics of the Al-Qaeda terrorist group. The using of female bombers, the using of attacking in a frontal, as the mall was attacked, as attacked in Mombasa. Now that's the standard Al-Qaeda attack, and it shows sophistication. They've got sophisticated bomb makers, and that comes from the contact that Boko Haram has got with other terrorist movements within West Africa. You see, they're connected to Mujao. That's the movement for spread of jihadism in West Africa. They were trained by Ansar Din, that's Algerian terrorist group, and also by this other ex-FIS group, Al-Qaeda in Islamic Maghreb, Akim. They were trained by those people. So basically, the thing of Boko Haram being international, it has long been international. Their sophistication is due to being connected to the much more sophisticated terrorist group in North Africa.
So it seems they have the connection and, of course, the funding.
Yes. Now, that's another thing about kidnapping. You remember that Akim and Ansar Din, for a long time before they actually had their attacks in Mali, they were based in Mauritania and around the Algerian-Mali border. And the biggest activity then was kidnapping. They used to kidnap Italian workers in Mauritania, if people remember. That forced the Mauritanian government to go to the American for assistance. And then quite a number of those kidnapped people were released, but a lot of ransom was paid. And again, they were also involved in smuggling of drugs and cigarettes across the Algerian border from Mali. Yeah. Now that's one thing about all terrorist groups. They've got to get an economic wing, which is actually going to bring in the finances. They call it that's the economic jihad. So what you see now about the kidnapping of the prime minister's wife, it could be that let's take time. You'll find that negotiations are taking place whereby they'll demand finance or even release of some of their jailed people. That's the standard terrorist activity. But again, they must have an economic wing.
But won't that indicate that the Cameroonian government will step up their military attacks against Boko Haram?
In fact, the Nigerian military has been more successful than the Nigerian. That's funny enough, as far as the Boko Haram. The number of Boko Haram terrorists who have been killed in Cameroon. The Cameroon are much more efficient. The Nigerians are dragging their feet because they want to use this as leverage in the coming elections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, why is it so difficult to infiltrate Boko Haram?
Well, it's difficult. It's not that difficult. I mean, I think it's a lack of will. Basically, Boko Haram itself, it has infiltrated the government. It's the other way around. Now, to infiltrate Boko Haram, it's up to the government to actually get the grassroots support who can actually come on its side and actually infiltrate Boko Haram. And I think the government and the military, they have not gone that far. Basically, I think the military which is there, it could be that it is manned and it's monopolized by Southerners, and Boko Haram, basically, they are Northerners or Northeasterners. And they've got some element of sympathy from the traditional ruling class. That has been said by the government, that's been said also by the military. Yeah.
Now, Boko Haram wants to carve out an Islamic State in Nigeria, but what do you then attribute Boko Haram's growing cross-national ideology to?
When you say cross-national, are you referring to across the borders with Niger?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
yes.
That's not Boko Haram. In fact, that's Mujao. That's Mujao. You find it in Niger. You find it in Mali. You find it they were there in Timbuktu. Yeah, the fighters who came from Niger and Nigeria who were there in Timbuktu. That thing has already become transnational. And again, I would not like to say it loud, but let's say it, is this that these people, they've got strong connections with other terrorists, within the Africans, even East African. There is talk. That some of these people have been trained in Sudan, but I would not like to say that it's happening. I'm just saying there is talk to that effect. But it's a transnational organization. People would remember that Osama bin Laden, in some of his last testimonies or speeches that he gave, he actually called for the Al-Qaeda to spread its action on the African continent, citing East Africa and West Africa. And I think what you're seeing is just the result of bin Laden's call. I
want to go back to the Cameroonian vice minister's wife being kidnapped, because Nigeria and Cameroon are currently involved in a bitter dispute over the Bakazi region. How is Boko Haram then using this as an advantage in that area?
No, it's not using it as Bakazi. The Bakazi is far down south. It's almost next to Igbo land. Yeah, what you're talking about Boko Haram, where the kidnapping is taking place, is northeast of Nigeria and the extreme north, the pinnacle of Cameroon. These are two different regions, and the politics of the north, extreme north, and the extreme south are two different things. The Bakazi Peninsula debacle would actually involve the people of the former Igbo land. Yeah, it would involve them, and those people are they're Christians or enemies. It's got nothing to do with Boko Haram.
So it's got nothing to do with the kidnapping as well?
No, it's got nothing to do with the kidnapping.
Now, Mr. Khomo, if we go back, if we look at the situation where Boko Haram, as you indicated, is basically gaining the upper hand over the Nigerian government, is it time for the government to start talking to Boko Haram in order to give them what they require?
I mean, there's no government that would negotiate with terrorists. That's a standard tactic. Once you do so, you're in serious trouble. If they do so, they'll lose the election. People are going to come up in arms. So that thing there is out of the way. Although there are contacts. I mean, say there are underground contacts. Like, I mean to say that the French people who were kidnapped, I mean to say they were released after 2 months. And people never said so, but people said, no, the French did pay a ransom. Like the Italians were kidnapped in Mauritania. I mean to say that people never said so, but people say that the ransom was paid. So it means that there is contact. And again, you find that at one time, Olusegun Obasanjo, he actually got in touch with certain contacts of Boko Haram. So there are contacts which are taking place, but they cannot be open, and the government cannot openly be seen to negotiate with terrorists.
Now, what about the African Union and the international community standing by, seeing that this is happening in Nigeria?
No, Nigeria said that they are capable of dealing with the whole thing. I mean, to say that if you're going to deal with Boko Haram, what do? You bomb the whole place or what? The fight against Boko Haram, the fight against terrorism does not come with military action. Military action is the last thing that happens in a string of events, and the first event is intelligence. Now, that's the most important thing. And we find that that's where the Nigerian government is actually lacking in, there's something lacking there in the intelligence. Once you infiltrate an organization, the rest is smooth sailing.
What would you think would be some of the solutions that could come out of this?
Well, there's no solution. There's only one option. And the option is actually to tackle Boko Haram and actually sort of catch the bull by the horns. But it's up to the Nigerian government to actually up its game. They should stop playing politics with the Boko Haram issue. I mean to say that with things like with the bombings, I mean to say that I won't be surprised, I'm just speculating, you find that some of the girls who have been kidnapped, they've been brainwashed and they've been trained to be jihadists. That's the thing that people said, that's a possibility. Yeah, because the girls are 24/7, they're under tutelage of Islamists, and it's very easy for them to be brainwashed and turn into be to be bombers. So basically, I mean to say that the Nigerian government has got to get its act up and take the politics out of this war against terrorism.
Mr. Khomo, as always, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
That was African Analyst Izak Khomo, who was also a producer at our sister station, Channel Africa, joining us here in studio.